On today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, Peacock has officially ordered 2 series, the new Office follow-up, taking place in the same universe as the Dunder Mifflin paper store. Also, the Tom Brady roast. Do celebrity roasts go too far? Also, Dune 2 hits its 3rd week in a row at #1 on the VOD charts, and the new Jerry Seinfeld movie, #1 on Netflix, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. We read the first reactions the other day, but the official reviews are now out, and they're looking really strong. And there's reports going around that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has signed on with the MCU to be Apocalypse in their X-Men universe. What are the arguments for that and against that? We're going to talk about that and a few things more. The John Campea Show podcast starts right now. Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming to you from right here in our quaint little studio, brought to you in part by our friends at Mint Mobile and BetterHelp. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, TV and streaming, and all sorts of good stuff. Not just giving you our opinions, but also giving you some information and context so you guys can form your own well-informed opinions, whether they're the same or completely different than ours. Joining me in studio today, I got Ray Ora.
Hey.
We got Jonathan Voyko.
Hoping for the best.
Writer, director, producer, Dragon Drainer, Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert A. Dinstenter.
Everything's going to be okay.
And most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here, making this show part of your day. And here's how the show goes. We're going to start off by going over those topics that I listed off. Then in the second part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. And it's game day.
Game day.
Going to go see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes tonight. I'm very excited about that. We're going to be talking about some of the reviews that are coming out. But before we do anything else, let's get things started with this. There are no conversations out there you can have about potentially the greatest comedy TV show of all time without The Office being a part of that conversation. You'll get some others in there. Obviously, Seinfeld is one of the ones that are up there. I would throw Parks and Rec in there as well, going back to the days of Cheers and whatever. But The Office is always in that conversation. And for 10 years since that show went off air, there's been a lot of people that have been wanting to see them do a reunion. Hell, they even had a bunch of the cast on Saturday Night Live, and they made jokes about, what about a reunion and all that kind of stuff. Well, we may not be getting the reunion, but we could be getting the next best thing. Reports and stories have gone around for a while that the creators of The Office are looking at doing a follow-up series that takes place in the same world as The Office, but, with a different company and new characters. And now it is official. The Hollywood Reporter have reported the following: The Office follow-up gets Peacock series order. The new comedy series is set in the same universe as the beloved Steve Carell show, but it will be set at a dying Midwestern newspaper. This is what they wrote. And you got Donald Gleason there. I was very excited he was going to be in that. Donald Gleason and Sabrina Impacciatori will lead an ensemble cast in the new take on The Office, which has landed at Peacock. The Office follow-up series has officially found a home. Peacock on Wednesday announced a formal series order for the untitled series that will be set in the same universes as NBC's former Emmy-winning Steve Carell comedy. Now, it goes on in the story to point out and mention that this is being created and showrun by the guy who created and showran the Steve Carell version of the show. Also, Ricky Gervais, who created the original UK version of the show, is also on as a producer in this. I don't watch White Lotus, so I don't really know much about Sabrina Impacciatori, but Donald Gleason is awesome. Donald Gleason is completely awesome, and I'm excited about it. Now, by them saying that this takes place in the same universe as the Dunder Mifflin thing, that keeps the door open, and I would say likelihood, that from time to time we are going to get Office alum floating in and floating out. Hell, we might even get a series regular, like a Phyllis, or, one of those characters. I don't think Creed will be there. God, I love Creed. But Creed's
on the run.
The paper company I worked at shut down years ago, and now I moved out west, and now I work here. Maybe she becomes one of the back. What's also interesting is the fact that The Office, even back when it was out, was revolved around a dying industry, the paper industry.
Mm-hmm.
And now they found a new dying industry, actual physical newspapers dying. So listen, I'll tell you what, as long as it's got the same guys who did the last series, I'm going to go into this with a lot of hope. Anyway, Rob, you heard about this. You never got to see The Office except for the first few episodes that we did for our Never Did Happen podcast on The Office.
Yeah, you de-virginized me when it came to The Office. I'd never seen it. You showed it to me for the very first time. The Office Virgin was going to be a show. Look, obviously, it is a great show, and it was apparent. I know the first 6 episodes, it gets even better. But I have to say, I love the milieu of this. I think that beyond the humor that I can see happening, the loss of our venerable newspapers and journalism itself, I think is a real issue of our time. And I think that first of all, the comedy is ripe here. The fodder for comedy, I'm sure, is endless. But it also has it can have an undercurrent, just like The Office did, to really make a statement about what's it like to be alive, working in these workaday jobs that,
that everybody related with.
Everybody.
Like everybody who watched those shows could totally relate with it.
100%. And this idea excites me. And I give them all the credit in the world for coming up with this milieu. And I'm excited, actually. I want to watch this show.
Now,
simply because of what it's about.
I know Ray is a big Office fan. So I've never asked you this. Do you have any interest in this?
I actually, I told you guys that every day when I go home, I turn on Comedy Central.
Yep.
And there's like the Office reruns. I'll watch through all of them, except one episode. But this one sounds interesting. It's about a newspaper, so I can kind of get it because I think we are doing away with paper. Paper in general. But I do still see newspapers like at the gas station or the grocery store. So this could still I like the idea of this. And for the fact of it being the same universe, I have a feeling we will see a lot of the alumni. Other than Steve Carell, I think he's not easy to get to come back.
No, he's not easy to get.
No,
Just because the way his ended too.
But he must be a producer on this, wouldn't he?
No, he's not.
No.
But I guarantee you, though, if Ricky Gervais is a producer on it, if Ricky Gervais asked him to come in and do a cameo, he probably would.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when I watched The Office, I didn't know any of the cast at all. So, and then I grew to love them. I'm hoping this is the same thing because Domhnall Gleeson, Donald,
yeah,
Gleeson. I'm still not familiar
a
lot with his work, and the other lady. I'm not familiar with her work. I hope they give me the charm and the funny where I get attached.
Well,
to
Donald will. I mean, I haven't seen White Lotus, but I can tell you, Donald Gleeson will.
A lot of people
100%.
know him from either Harry Potter or from
Star
Star
Wars.
Wars, obviously. But he
Ex Machina.
Ex Machina. But he is hilarious, and he's got that dry wit too.
What was that? He was in like a time travel movie too.
Which I love.
Yes, it's really good.
Something. It's like must pack or must bring.
Can't remember.
Yeah, it's like In Time or in Time.
I'll look it up, but he's really,
that movie. Elizabeth showed me that movie. I'd never seen it. It's a wonderful film.
about time.
About Time.
About Time. That sounds right to me.
Now, do we have any idea of who they're playing? Do we think there's going to be a hierarchy here?
Oh,
like maybe
probably.
Donald's going to be the boss,
maybe.
Or I can even see this actress being the boss.
Oh
too.
yeah, or neither of them. They could,
both
they
of them
could kind of be
competing.
a Pam and Jim situation,
or like a competing reporters or whatever writers.
Yeah,
editors.
but I got a feeling it'll revolve around. I have a feeling it'll be Donald Gleeson. I don't know why. I'm just going to throw that out there and guess that.
Well, they are the first names to be dropped, so I would assume that they're.
They'll be the main characters.
Yeah.
But the boss may not be the main character.
That's true because I'm the main character on this show. Well, but you're the boss, so I can understand that.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? It is now full official. NBC Peacock has ordered it direct to series to start shooting in a couple of months. A brand new in the universe of The Office kind of thing. How many cameos will we see? Whatever. How are you feeling about it? Whatever you think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's talk about this, shall we? This past weekend, there was the latest. It's been a while since we had a big celebrity roast, but we had one of the GOAT, the greatest NFL player of all time, Tom Brady, 7 rings. He needs more slots on his Infinity Gauntlet than Thanos. And they did it for the first time in a sold-out arena. And they did it at the Forum in Los Angeles here. And it was hilarious. It was so funny. Especially like the first half hour with Kevin Hart, Jeff Ross, and Nikki Glaser. Nikki Glaser was the MVP of the whole roast, by the way. And then the middle part was a little bit slow, but then the last half hour got really, really funny too. It was gut-splittingly funny. But they also pushed the envelope in their humor to the point that even Ray was like, when they were going after Brady and his family problems, like even Ray was like, I don't know if I can watch this. Oh no, I don't know if I can watch this.
It's just awkward.
It was very, very awkward, but incredibly funny. And again, Nikki Glaser, who, if you didn't know her name before this roast, she's gonna be a big star after this roast, because she was the MVP of it. But it does raise the question, and I've heard a lot of people ask the question, is, do these roasts go a little bit too far? I mean, because they were, and listen, Tom Brady asked for it. And I don't mean like proverbially. No, he literally asked for it. He told them all, bring it. And they savaged him. And they savaged each other.
I mean, if you're telling professional comedians to bring it.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, you don't know what you're stepping into.
So even all the roasters were roasting each other too. And it was totally savage and completely hilarious. And I loved it. Now, a bunch of people are like scratching their heads and go, this seems kind of mean. And one such person is now former NFL player and host of the most popular sports podcast in the world, Jason Kelce, brother of Travis Kelce, multi-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl winner, Jason Kelce. He and his brother were talking on their #1 podcast, New Heights, about it, and they loved it. But Jason Kelce saying, I don't get it, though. This comes just from the folks of the New York Post. Says, this is Jason Kelce speaking, saying, it was pure entertainment, and I'm really happy they did it, but I just don't get the roasts, said Jason, who retired this offseason. I don't know why people do it. Maybe I take myself too seriously. It was star-studded. The best part about it was how many just iconic NFL and celebrities, immense stature that were there. And then it goes on to say, not to mention the entire Patriots dynasty showing up for Tom. That being said, I really don't effing get it. I don't get why people would do roasts. I don't get why they are a thing. Yeah, my family is ruined. It's so funny. Everyone's laughing. It's great. We're having fun. Yeah, right. Now, before you think he was being sour on it, him and his brother go on to talk about how they thought it was absolutely hilarious. He's just saying, why would you do this? And I understand the sentiment. Like, as I remember going into the roast wondering, I don't know if any of them will make fun of Tom Brady's failed marriage. Oh, I was wrong. They went for the jugular on his fail over and over again about every controversy, about every bad decision he's ever made. I mean, they went right at him, and it was very, very, very funny. But it does raise a good question about, like, when is it too much? Even I remember I heard Andrew Dice Clay once say, even in comedy, there's definitely a line you shouldn't cross. It's just that every comedian wrestles with where's that line, right? So even the most hardcore of comedians will say, yeah, there's probably lines you shouldn't cross, but where are those lines? What are those lines? And when do you engage them? I will say this, though. I watched that as a fan of Tom Brady, and I watched them eviscerate him and each other. And I read this one article, I think it was in Newsweek, wrote this article, said, like, Tom Brady was completely destroyed at his roast, and it's the best thing that could have happened to him. Because I think they're right. Like, I came away from that roast, as brutal and as going for the jugular as it was, thinking that felt very healing. It felt very healing. Like, and you know, I remember once, Rob, I was, when I still lived in Burbank, one night I came home, Ann and I came home, and there's some pretty bad fires going on in Burbank. And we lived at the base of this mountain.
Yeah.
And we looked up and the flames were coming over the mountain. And so I pulled up my phone and video. I'm like, came home to this. And I was laughing, right? And there were some people like commented on that saying, John, how can you possibly laugh at that? This is serious, blah, blah, blah. And I said, listen, guys, we all deal with stress in different ways. Some people break down and cry. Some people just go silent. My natural thing is to laugh. I mean, that's just what I do. And I watched that roast and I thought, then you heard Giselle,
yeah.
What did
Gazelle's a different thing.
What did Ron Burgundy refer to her as? Jajaraj or something like that. But like saying, it was really hurtful hearing jokes being made about the failure of our marriage. Like, well, but that's out there. It's not like they were revealing secrets and stuff that was out there. I think that kind of humor can be incredibly healing. I think it can be incredibly bonding. And listen, again, they weren't telling jokes behind people's backs. They all knew what this was. They went up there and they told jokes and they clearly all had a blast. And I thought it was great. And I will say, can roasts go too far? Sure they can. Did this one go too far? I don't think it did. I just thought it was funny. I thought it brought everybody together. I thought they were able to all laugh at their own inadequacies. And I think everybody was the better for it. Now, I might not be in the majority in that thinking, but for me, it was kind of work. Don't get me wrong. I would never do it. I would never do it. I wouldn't even be a roaster because everybody else who's roasting will roast you too.
Yeah.
I would not do it personally. So I'm with Jason Kelsey on this. I wouldn't do it not at all. But I'm all for them. So I don't know, Rob, you watched this roast.
I watched the whole thing.
How did you feel about it?
Well, here's the thing. Like, if you're a character like Tom Brady and you've reached God level status, like you said, the greatest of all time in the NBA, the NFL, which is one of the great American. I mean, if you think about sports, football, I know I'm not going to get into a football debate across Europe or whatever, but American football is, for this country, being the GOAT is like being on Mount Olympus.
By the way, just to your point, we did this statistic a few weeks ago. In 2023, of the 30 most watched television events of the year, 28 of them were NFL games.
Yeah.
One of them was the Oscars, and one of them down around number 20 was like the NBA championships. And all other 28 were all NFL.
But like you pointed out, no one's revealing any secrets. And the fact is, when you're a public figure like Tom Brady, all of this stuff is out there. And like you say, look, we take ourselves way too seriously. Human beings do. We live these crazy, weird lives of quiet desperation or public desperation, or not desperate at all because you're a multi-billionaire, whatever. But to see people brought down to the level of all of us.
Yeah.
I mean, it shows that all human beings everywhere, and it's like great storytelling, we share certain things. Failed marriages, wives that have sex with their karate instructor, whatever it is. I mean, everything about us is worthy of mockery. And I think by doing that, it puts everybody on a level, call it a playing field, and there's something about it that when everybody comes together and they know they're doing this, a guy like Tom Brady agreeing to be the subject of this says a lot about him, I think, as a human being. And look, I look at his Hertz ads and I'm like, he likes doing those Hertz ads. Let's go. Like, he wouldn't have to do that. He's sitting on the woman that's interviewing him and stuff. And I mean, he doesn't have to do that and stick a plug in his chest. But I think that Tom Brady wants to have fun. Like, all the time, whenever he does sketches on Jimmy Kimmel, like with the football, throwing it through Matt Damon's window, and he knows what's up.
What was the one joke they said? I think it was Jeff Ross. Who made the joke about, you came from a kid who almost wasn't drafted to being the third most famous celebrity in a Dunkin' Donuts commercial.
That was hilarious.
That was awesome.
And the fact that he did that Dunkin' Donuts commercial. Because it's like, he's already, it's like an astronaut who lands on the moon. If you do that when you're like 30 or 40, what do you do with the rest of your life? What are you going to do that's going to you landed on the moon.
Yep.
Well, he already won 7 Super Bowl rings. It's like, what more do you do? You have fun.
You know,
You have a good time.
There is one person I do feel bad for, and that is his ex-wife, I guess, because I knew nothing about her. So everything I've known, I didn't even follow what happened in their relationship. So everything I know about her is from the jokes that were said, and it gives me a bad like now I'm like, oh, she did that, and I'm like, if this is
Yeah, but that was all public knowledge.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
even if you hadn't
but
heard
for
it.
for
Right.
a general audience who watched it, oh, what's this? And you don't know anything about, like, let's say you don't know sports. You know, even people could have looked at Tom Brady at that ending. Like I saw a debate on Reddit saying, was that the real Tom Brady talking at the end? And I was like, no, that's not.
That's what the
I was like,
roasted
no, that's
person
not.
always does that at the end of the roast.
Right,
That's
right,
what you're
right.
always supposed to
So
do.
if there is anybody, because Tom Brady agreed to this, but did Giselle?
No, but here's the
she
thing.
got trashed on as much as he did.
No, she didn't. If you go back and watch a thing, none of the jokes were about her. All the jokes were targeting Tom Brady, making
okay.
fun of him,
But-
because that happened. But everything, like with the Giselle stuff, that was all public knowledge. That's all in the newspapers. That's
Right.
all everywhere. And they were all making fun of him. See, honestly, I think the only joke that got told that was that I felt was a little off, out of bounds, because they weren't on stage and they weren't there, and was the joke that Tom Brady made about Brett Favre. He goes, when Peyton and I came into the league, it was so long ago that it was back that Brett Favre was still faxing his dick pics to people. It's like, okay, everybody else is there and knows that they're there, but Giselle,
funny, though.
none of the jokes were targeted at her.
Right.
They used her situation
To
but
take
to
Tom
make
Brady
fun of
down.
Tom,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I kind of felt all right by it, but now the question will become, who's next? Because I want to see more of these. But I don't know who's going to step up and go, yeah, I'll be the one who gets roasted. At least people that people would care to see. Because you can't just do, the 4th credited guy in the 7th movie of the year last year. I mean, it's if you do Tom Brady, your next one's got to be a big star. And who's going to agree to do it? Because even Kevin Hart said during the roast, like right at the beginning, first of all, amazing Tom Brady would do this because we can't find people that are willing to subject themselves to this, and Tom Brady did. So let's see who else comes up next.
I wonder how much you got paid.
You know who I would love to see it for? Tom Hanks. How awesome would a roast of Tom Hanks be? And Tom Hanks strikes me as the type of guy who could totally take it.
Would anybody have anything bad to say about him?
They'd have to come up with something. They'd have to come up with something.
Wow. I kind of want to see that now just to see what people would say.
Anyway, guys, question is for you. This was a huge hit on Netflix, but do these roasts take it too far? I mean, just because I don't think this one did doesn't mean you should feel that way. And maybe there are things that could be too far. I don't know. Whatever you guys think, jump into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's talk about this, shall we? Dune 2 is already, for me, I think the best movie I've seen in the last 10 years. I love it that much. Saw it a bunch. Has huge success at the box office, crossing, I believe it crossed the $700 million mark.
Mm-hmm.
Ray, you can correct me. It's either the $600 or the $700 million mark. I can't remember which, but it made a ton of money for itself. But its success continues, as it is now out and available on VOD. Did you get that number right?
708.
So it crossed the $700 million mark. So congratulations to them for that. But it has hit and maintained the #1 spot on home VOD for 3 weeks in a row. That's not common. It's not like it never happens, but it's not common at all. And especially when you consider, we're not talking about a $5.99 rental. We're talking about $25 you got to pay to watch this thing. This comes us from IndieWire, quoting Fandango at Home, tracking the VOD home sales. #1 movie is Dune Part 2. #2, Kung Fu Panda 4, which I didn't even realize it was available on home video already. Arthur the King at #3. Madam Web at #4.
$5.99, baby. I'm going to go out and get it.
Do it. #6, Monkey Man. Imaginary, Late Night with the Devil.
To get something straight.
Arcadian, and Ordinary Angels in the 10th spot. Now, by the way, as far as free streaming, Jerry Seinfeld's Unfrosted, not being lavished with great reviews, But it's Jerry Seinfeld, man. It's number one on there with the Judge being at number 2, which is weird. Why is the
What is
Judge?
the Judge?
Yeah, that's the Robert Downey Jr. movie.
Yeah, I think it just made it to streaming.
Oh, is that why it's there? Okay,
Yeah.
then number 3, Shrek. Number 4, One More Shot. Number 5, Anyone But You. Number 6, The Great Wall. Why is The Great Wall on there? Who's watching The Great Wall?
What's the algorithm for that one?
Who is watching Matt Damon's The Great Wall? Number 7, The Equalizer. Number 8, Blender. Number 9, another Shrek movie, Shrek Forever After. Number 10, Secrets of the Neanderthals, an original Netflix documentary. Rob, what is it about Dune 2 that, has had this kind of legs? I mean, we know it's a great movie, all right? So that goes there. But for it to then transition out of theater, go on to VOD, and hold the number 1 spot at a hefty price tag, but hold that number 1 spot for 3 weeks in a row. Why is it continuing its success on home video?
Okay, John, I'm always banging on about verisimilitude, the quality of something being real. I think that when people go to the cinema, or watch movies, they want to be transported, truly transported. And I think that, as you pointed out, Dune 2 and Dune 1 actually are some of the most immersive, transportive, cinematic visions of science fiction of worlds, 10,191 that have ever been put to celluloid or digitally captured. And that film is truly transporting in a way that very few films are. And to watch it from the visuals to the design work to the actors themselves, to Austin Butler's Fade Routha, everything about the movie is utterly, I wouldn't want to call it enchanting because that's not the right word. Maybe ensorceling is better. To watch that movie, it puts a spell on you. And it's unlike anything you've ever seen. And what Denis Villeneuve has done is what, in a way, Star Wars did in 77. It shows an audience things. I mean, I know it takes place on a desert world, but that we've all seen deserts, but the feel of everything that's going on, the combination of Hans Zimmer's music and Greg Fraser's cinematography and the actors and the portrayal of the world of Arrakis and all the technology and the Padishah Emperor Shaddam IV and the Landsrat, all that stuff is amazingly realized. And John, it's like The Godfather. You turn it on, you can't turn it off.
Yeah.
It's absolutely just, I watch those movies and I'm like, I'm going to watch 5 minutes of it. Nope. You get sucked right in. And it's just spectacular.
So let's transition then over to number 1 on streaming, which is Jerry Seinfeld's Unfrosted hit number 1. Again, Ray, Ann, and I went to go see Jerry Seinfeld live again a few weeks ago. He performed the day after CinemaCon ended, so we extended our hotel one more day, stayed an extra day so we can go see Seinfeld live. And I had problems breathing. Yeah. Like, Seinfeld is better today than he's ever been. He's 70 now. And he's better today than he has ever been. He slayed. I've watched about 20 minutes of Unfrosted. Unfrosted does not slay.
Right.
And, we and I think I put my finger on it. Because the other day we talked about the fact that it's weird because stand-up comedy works on a stage doing stand-up comedy. Just trying to take those jokes and make it into a movie. Joe Coy, my favorite comedian in the world right now, he did the worst movie of the year the other year with Easter Sunday. It just didn't work. But then I thought about it and I thought, but that's what the Seinfeld show was. Like, Seinfeld was basically his comedy bits turned into a show. But I think I figured out what the difference is.
Larry David.
Well, Larry David is definitely one of them. Curb Your Enthusiasm. Ann just started watching Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, no.
She's loving that so far. It's so good. But when you watch Seinfeld, as ridiculous as Seinfeld is, it's real ridiculous. Like, it's like, yeah, it's ridiculous, but you could totally see people, and maybe even people having these conversations. Unfrosted isn't real ridiculous. It's like, it's spoof.
Right.
And Easter Sunday, when Joe Coy is telling these stories about conversations with his Filipino family, it's hilarious because it's real ridiculous. In Easter Sunday, they crossed that threshold and just became spoofy ridiculous. And that doesn't work. I would love to see Jerry Seinfeld actually write a comedy movie that is sure ridiculous, but feels more real. Like, yeah, this could happen. Like, these conversations actually happen, as silly and as ludicrous and as ridiculous as they are. But he's still Jerry Seinfeld, so put it out. Even if it's not good, it's #1 on Netflix. Have you had a chance to check out any of Unfrosted yet?
I watched Unfrosted, and I feel the same way that you did. It was like one of my favorite comedies and one of the greatest satires ever made is Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove. And here's a movie that was...
What's the full title? How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb.
Yeah. And the thing about Dr. Strangelove was Kubrick started adapting a very serious book about the end of the world. And he realized this whole situation is absurd, so he pivoted and made it into a comedy. But the thing is, they don't know it's a comedy, and everybody's taking it very, very seriously. But they never break the tone, you know. And like when the president's like, "You can't fight in here. This is the war room," you know. It never breaks. Whereas Unfrosted constantly breaks its own rules. Every moment, you know, it's suddenly like, oh, it's the Mad Men scene where you literally have Mad Men. John Hamm is pitching this idea, and it's like, what, am I watching a scary movie thing? Is this, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt too.
And if they had just made it a spoof but played it straight, like, and when you're watching, I hate to say it, but it breaks the fourth wall. All you're thinking about is, oh, there's the guy from Mad Men doing Mad Men. You know, it's like. The thing is, the idea behind it, I thought was great. The whole storyline.
Oh, yeah. I was looking forward to an actual story about the creation of the Pop-Tart told with humorous edge.
Yes.
Instead, we got something. We got a scary movie.
A scary movie. And I was like, what? That's an interesting wrong choice. And it bothered me because some of it, I saw that it was frustrating to watch because I'm like, this could have been great. And it should have been great. But it was not great.
You know who is great? Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Jerry Seinfeld is still good. By the way, I know I've been saying this for a couple of days now, but Ann and I discovered his now 6-7-year-old series, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. So worth a watch.
Oh, yeah.
It's just so easy to turn on.
And there's 17 minutes an episode.
Just run it.
Oh, and they're so great. Yeah. I really, really love them. Anyway, guys, question is for you. Have you been one of those people at home VOD paying $25 a month or $25 for Dune 2? Have you watched Unfrosted? How did you feel about them? Whatever you think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we still have to talk about the official reviews are now out for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and not surprisingly, they're very strong. Also, reports going around that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is going to be Apocalypse in the upcoming X-Men universe in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We're going to talk about that and a few things more. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, my mobile service provider, and they should be yours, Mint Mobile. We want to thank a sponsor of today's video, Mint Mobile. My favorite spring cleaning takeaway is the post-clean clarity you get. Wow, how have I been living like this? It's kind of like when you find out that you've been paying a fortune for wireless when Mint Mobile has phone plans for just $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. My last mobile service provider was quite good, but ever since I switched to Mint Mobile, I've enjoyed even better coverage, better phone clarity, and I'm paying less than a third of what I paid to my old provider. Say goodbye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bills to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions may apply. See Mint Mobile for details. And thank you to our friends at Mint Mobile for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to this. In just 6.5 hours, Ray and I are going to be going over to see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which I am so stoked about, very excited for. I mean, I was looking forward to it before CinemaCon. They showed us this big presentation for it at CinemaCon, and I was like, okay, now I'm fully on board. I cannot wait. Now, the other day, the first reactions kind of started coming out on social media, and we read through them, and they were very, very strong. Well, now the official reviews are now coming in, and as we go over to Rotten Tomatoes, we're seeing with 57 reviews officially in right now, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is holding an 86%. Yeah. Now, let's go over and take a look at some of these. We're going to go over to the top critics and see what some of the top critics are saying about it. Let's see. So, the Times in the UK gave it a negative review, said the final act is a mess.
Whoa.
And juggles 4 or 5 plot points before settling on a dire jump the shark moment featuring Noah and a troop of wobbling monkeys. I love that that's the first one we read. I love that. All right. Empire Magazine felt different. Empire Magazine said, it's less action heavy than the last trilogy and inevitably more ape-centric, but this is a promisingly chewy start for the latest series, Simian thrillers. These apes are still strong. Vanity Fair writes, directed by Wes Ball, Kingdom doesn't reach the rattling grandeur of Dawn, but it's another worthy installment in a series that is pretty much unparalleled in contemporary times. Rolling Stone didn't like it. They said, you're essentially left with nothing but Blockbuster 101 grandstanding. Welcome to the emptiest of monkey houses.
Wow.
Hey, you guys writes, with captivating performances, astounding visual effects, and richly developed characters, this latest chapter feels fresh and immensely satisfying, delivering on both story and spectacle, a true delight. The Associated Press said, the effects are just jaw-dropping, from the ability to see individual hairs on the back of a monkey to the way leaves fall and crack tree limbs echoing in the forest. The Toronto Star writes, Wes Ball takes his time introducing his characters, which pays off by making us care about their struggles. The Minneapolis Star writes, it takes just a couple of minutes to be immersed completely in the world of the movie. The Daily Telegraph writes, sincerity and conviction are now rare qualities in the blockbuster field, but this is a film that puts its monkey where its mouth is. The Guardian writes, this franchise has held up an awful lot better than others. Now it should evolve to something new. IndieWire writes, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is such a rewardingly cerebral journey because of its refusal to dictator shame its villain or offer a clear alternative for the apes forced to serve at his movie. And finally, the USA Today writes, Kingdom checks most of the boxes for longtime Apes fan and newbies. Don't need any prior homework as a standalone story that mostly explains itself. And then there are a bunch more that go down, but that's generally it. So not 100%, which hardly any movies ever do, but an 86 for the fourth installment of this iteration of the franchise. Obviously, there've been a lot more Planet of the Apes movies, but the fourth installment of this iteration of the franchise. And I'll tell you what, I am, as somebody who's excited to go see the movie, I am loving everything that I'm hearing. Again, I go back to the first one. I love that first one. There's the guy from the Times in the UK. The final act is a mess and juggles not 4 or 5 plot points for settling on dire jump the shark moments featuring Noah and a troop of warbling monkeys. I love that. Listen, that's the beautiful thing about the movies, man. They all hit us in different ways, and somebody is going to hit them that way. So hopefully I'm not one of them. I'm hoping I go in and I love it. I hope I love every movie I go to see. So here's fingers crossed. Anyway, Rob, sitting at 86% right now. You heard a bunch of the top critics talking about it. Is this right where you thought it would be? Is it a little bit better, a little bit worse? What do you think?
No, it's, I have really high hopes for this. I think this new iteration, this new reboot, call it what you will, has been extraordinary. I mean, while, like you, War for the Planet of the Apes was not as great as I hoped it would be, but it was still pretty damn good. And as far
Dawn
as this,
was incredible.
Yeah, Dawn was incredible. Rise really surprised me. This is a franchise I've literally been watching my entire life. And so I've liked all, other than the Tim Burton remake, which I wasn't a big fan of, although there's things to like about that as well. I've been a huge fan of this. I love the Apes franchise in general. I can't wait to see this. There are some things in these reviews about how the Planet of the Apes movies have always been very thinly veiled allegory, and they've always hit hard. I mean, you watch the R-rated version of Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, man, that is, especially today, and that was a movie made, in 74, 73, and it has lost none of its power. And I've always expected political commentary from the Apes films. And so if it doesn't hit that hard, if this one is more of an adventure with less political underpinnings, that's okay. You know, I just want to see a great story, well told, and I want to be transported.
Nothing's going to be as dark as Below the Planet.
Yeah, yeah. That little
is that the one with like the underground mutants?
Yeah,
and stuff.
And at the end of the world,
yeah,
at the end of the it's so great because Charlton Heston sets off the Omega bomb, and then I think it's Paul Frees goes, you know, a small unremarkable blue-green planet is now dead. And then the credits roll. And then they made another one.
It came back together from gravitational pull.
They went back to the ninth.
What's that line in Holy Grail? It got better.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to love that they blow up the entire Earth, kill everybody, and then the next movie is three of the apes go back to 1970s LA and go shopping. It's amazing.
Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about that? Are you excited about this movie? By the way, guys, keep your eyes on the channel a little bit later this evening because Ray and I will be posting our out of the theater reaction to Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes once we see it a little bit later tonight. And obviously, we'll talk about it a little bit more on the show tomorrow. But you looking forward to it? Is it game day for you? I know it is for me. Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's talk about this.
Uh-oh.
Of course, we live in a world, you know, in movie fandom and everything like that.
In a world
where there's always casting speculations. Everybody's throwing in everybody, because everybody is the internet now. Everybody's got a scoop. Everybody's got a scoop. This one is kind of interesting. As we know, the X-Men are coming to the MCU. As a matter of fact, they've already appeared. Beast has already made his first official appearance at the end credits of the Marvels, right? So he's already been there. We've already heard in Ms. Marvel that little music hit from the X-Men cartoon, which was just awesome, by the way. That was a great little Easter egg in there. But people are starting to think grander things because there's a report going around that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is being looked at to be Apocalypse. Now, this comes from the folks over at Cinema Blend. I really like Cinema Blend. They wrote, "Wild MCU rumor claims Dwayne Johnson is playing an X-Men villain, and I'm kind of into the casting." So they write this. They say, "Fans have spent years watching the Marvel movies in order and have not so patiently waited for the X-Men to finally join in on the fun. It's unclear when that team will appear in an upcoming Marvel movie, which has led to a number of rumors, and a new one shared by CBM claims that The Rock might be playing Apocalypse in the shared universe. While we should take this with a grain of salt for the time being, the timing of this possible casting does make sense. The MCU has been slowly introducing X-Men lore, including the Marvel's credit scene and, of course, Deadpool and Wolverine. And if the team of mutants is finally appearing, they're going to need a big villain to battle." Okay, now I should point out that Cinema Blend is referring to a story in CBM, comic book movie, that we quote quite a bit. And CBM is getting their information from a Twitter account. Now, it's one of those Twitter accounts that has been wrong sometimes, but has actually has broken a number of things and have been right about a couple of things. So it's coin toss, real or not real. I thought we would take a couple of seconds here to talk about the reasons why, as I like to do when these things come up, about why maybe we could believe it and why we shouldn't believe it. All right. So reasons why we can believe it and reasons why we can't. Let me start with the reasons why we shouldn't. I don't know how far away we are from an X-Men movie actually getting made, but I feel safe in saying years.
Mm-hmm.
We are years away from an X-Men movie. How long did we have to wait to get the casting Rob of Fantastic Four?
A long time.
We had to wait a long time till they were literally within months of starting production, right? The MCU is not in the habit, unless your name is Mahershala Ali, of casting somebody for a movie they are years away from ever making. Now, in the case of Blade, in their defense, they probably thought they were going to be going into production a lot faster than they ended up being. It's now 5 years later. We're still waiting. But that's a rare example, right? They generally do not go out and cast these roles when they're years away from even making the movie, generally speaking. So to me, that is the number one reason to not buy into this, is that it doesn't even make any sense that they would have picked somebody to play Apocalypse when they're this far away. As far as we know, they have no writer, they have no director, they haven't even announced a project yet. Oh, but they're going out and casting for it? Well, what do you have to say?
Do you know who was a friend of Apocalypse's? Kang. Kang and Apocalypse knew one another in Egypt when Kang was Rama Tut.
They were, well, not that just they knew each other, they were also adversaries.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see, because if they move forward with the Kang dynasty in some form, I love the way that Brian in X-Men Apocalypse, Brian Singer, showed Apocalypse
in the post-credit scene. Yeah.
Well, no, but in ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
You know how that was cool. How in the beginning you have that great opening sequence where he gets buried and all that. But since Apocalypse is the first mutant, what better way to introduce mutants into the Marvel Cinematic Universe than in the Kang dynasty? Because what is, dynastic, the Egyptian dynasties, the pharaohs and all that. What if we met Kang as Rama Tut? And then you meet Apocalypse.
As En-Sabah-Nur.
En-Sabah-Nur and Rama Tut are hanging out. I think that we could see that. And whether you're that way, it'd be like Thanos. You already know you're going to have Apocalypse be a big dude, but you introduce him in a small way in the Kang dynasty in such a way that's so canonical. I think it could be really cool. And look, I think they'll use Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson the way they use Josh Brolin as Thanos. They'll make him huge. He'll have some.
Well, yeah, it's Apocalypse. So
but he'd be great. I think that's a great casting thing.
I'll say this though,
but I don't know. That's just a theory.
Yeah, remember, Kang Dynasty isn't even called Kang Dynasty anymore.
Right.
So, and then the question is, are they actually going to use those Avengers movies to introduce X-Men? Don't know about that. And so I have struggles believing this because of all the timing. Now,
yeah.
That being said, let's look at the opposite side of the coin. What are some reasons maybe to buy into this? While Magneto is the quintessential X-Men foil, Apocalypse is the biggest threat. I mean, you can get into godlike character, sure, but basically speaking, he's the biggest threat. I mean, even in their own storyline, my all-time favorite storyline, of course, is X-Men Age of Apocalypse, but even in that, Legion goes back in time to try to make life better for his dad in a real twisted kind of way. But without Charles Xavier there, nobody is there to stop Apocalypse and his four horsemen from basically dominating the world, particularly North America and all that kind of stuff. He's the guy. He's En-Sabah-Nur. He's the original. He is Apocalypse.
By the way, you can get the hardcover of the entire Age of Apocalypse storyline.
How does that fit into one volume?
Oh, it's huge. It's $125.
Oh my God.
Dude, it's awesome.
I
just reread.
By the way, the Bishop Apocalypse fight in that series is so good.
It's so good.
Anyway,
it's so much fun.
Sidetracked here. So let's talk about why maybe you could believe it. Okay. Number one, you got a character like Apocalypse. It's maybe a character you wait on and build up to and all that kind of stuff, but it's also a character you could make a foundational thing with X-Men, like you were pointing out. If you want to introduce mutants, why not start with the first and kind of build from there? So, okay, that could make sense. Even though the movie is years away, it could be that, like Black Panther and other characters, they introduce him in another movie or project. That is a possibility. We got Hank McCoy popped up in the Marvels. Why can't Apocalypse pop up somewhere there too? Okay. Well, then we get into the specifics about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Number one, whatever you think of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, there is no denying, unless you're an idiot, that he is one of the biggest stars in the world. You can hate Dwayne Johnson, but even if you hate him, you probably acknowledge he is one of the biggest stars in the world. So there's that. That never hurts. There are a lot of people who only watch certain movies. So there are people who just think Dwayne Johnson flat out can't act. Those are people who have never seen Snitch. those are people who have never seen Faster.
Some Pain and Gain.
What's Pain and Gain? Thank you. Some people might even want to throw in Walking Tall.
Walking Tall.
Like, you can't watch Snitch and Faster and Pain and Gain and say, oh, that guy can't act. Yeah, he can.
Yeah.
Is he about to win any Academy Awards anytime soon? Absolutely not. But he can act. He can when he's called. The thing about The Rock is when you put him in a movie, people want to see The Rock, right? So in most of his movies, Dwayne Johnson is playing The Rock. Get your candy ass over here and bring me some snoodle. Right?
And a bottle.
And a bottle. Rock's gotta pee. Bring me a bottle. I'll be back in 8 hours.
And a dragon.
You know?
I'm sorry.
And a dragon. I mean, imagine it. Imagine it. He's Apocalypse. And he says, Sinister, what do you think the X-Men will do next? Well, my Lord Apocalypse, it doesn't matter what you think. If they got to put that in there. I don't care how silly it would be. It's got to be in there. But really, he can if you need him to do something. And somebody like an Apocalypse, that's going to be more dour. It's going to be more monotone, except for when there's rage. And I'll tell you what, as much as we joke about Black Adam, when he's playing Black Adam that way, it works.
It was great. I mean, that's what I was going to say. That shows he could be absolutely be Apocalypse, because Black Adam had that kind of Apocalypse quality.
That's almost a downside for me. I was thinking it's like this kind of comes close to Black Adam. I don't know.
But I don't know, once you put him in, because remember, you're hardly going to see The Rock. You put him in, the makeup, all that kind of stuff. I think you're right, Rob. There's going to be a mixture of what they did with Oscar Isaac versus a mixture of what they did with Josh Brolin with Thanos. There's going to be CG elements to it too. Because remember, Apocalypse is going to make himself bigger and all that kind of stuff.
By the way, I want to give a shout out though to Oscar Isaac. He was great as Apocalypse.
I really did not like that movie, but I thought he did a fine job.
I mean, all of his line readings and everything. I mean, he threw himself into that role. I mean, he was great.
Yeah. So look, would The Rock be my choice for it? No, wouldn't be my choice. But I think it's silly to discard it out of hand. I think he'd be perfectly fine, especially in the hands of the right director. You put him with the right director. Now, but here's the problem I got with it. All right. I love Dwayne Johnson. I do. I love The Rock. I love seeing him on screen. He's very entertaining. Apocalypse and the story of Apocalypse is one of my most treasured things in my comic reading as a kid. Dwayne, if you're watching, and obviously you are, that's how he starts his day. What? He's doing his 3-hour day of workouts. What do you think he's doing while he's working out? He's watching the John Candu show.
Yeah, of course not.
So Dwayne, love you, buddy. But if you're going to come in and play Apocalypse, show fucking up on time. How about that?
Oh.
Yeah.
Dang.
How about that? How about not seeing yourself as above everybody else and you can just wander in onto set whenever you want? Because you know who is bigger? You know who is big enough in Hollywood to not take that shit?
Wolverine.
Our favorite hat-wearing dude, Kevin Feige.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's adorable, Dwayne. That's adorable. You know who's 5 times more powerful than you in this industry? Me. Kevin Feige, not John Campea. I mean, it would have to be that way. Now, look, at the end of the day, do I believe this report? No, I don't. I just think the first reasons far outweigh the pro reasons. They're not going to cast this role years before they're anywhere near making it. I just don't see it happening. And with all the reports going around about Dwayne, how he can be difficult and all that kind of stuff, like everybody says he's a super nice guy, and that's great. But if you're difficult to work with, as nice as you are, maybe as well-meaning as you are, that is something Kevin Feige will not tolerate.
Right.
And so I really doubt that this, again, if they announce tomorrow, Rob, that it's official, he's going to be it, I'm okay with it. I am. I'm okay with it, but I just don't see it happening. What do you think?
You know, I watched for New Year's Eve this past year, the change of years into 2024. We with Elizabeth, we didn't really go anywhere. And Elizabeth's family, we watched Ben-Hur. And first of all, Ben-Hur is a great movie. But at the core of Ben-Hur, you have Judah Ben-Hur and one of his best friends they're the greatest friends when they're young men. And then they wind up on opposite sides of the fence. You know, one is a despot, and then there's Ben-Hur. I could see in a Marvel movie, I could see where they introduce En Sabanur as like a normal dude. You know, like maybe he doesn't quite know what his destiny is, and you've got Ramatut, you've got Kang coming back from the future, knowing that he has to influence events or something, and kick off what we know is going to eventually lead to Apocalypse. But it's like that Ben-Hur scene when you see these young men, they're proud and it's all going to be great. But we know that Kang is setting up the future or whatever because he's messing with time. You know, he who remains. And I could see a really great like flashback scene. It's only seen the movie that sets it up. And we know as the audience where it's going to go. So it's almost like instead of a ending scene of a movie, maybe it'll be the ending scene, but it'd almost be like a pre-title sequence in a movie. Maybe it's a pre-title sequence in whatever this Avengers 5 is going to be.
We're pretty wildly speculating.
I know, I'm making this up, but I'm just saying you're asking, could I see it?
Yeah.
I could see it. And if you're going to set up, because the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
But I'm specifically asking you, not can you see Apocalypse?
I can see Dwayne.
Can you see Dwayne
Yeah,
doing it?
100%. And they set it up, and we know it's going to come. And I absolutely think that Apocalypse. Who else would you cast? I mean, if you're going to cast somebody, he could pull it off.
Yep.
He could pull it off. And you know, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has got to get back to planning. They have to be planners
schemers.
because that's why it worked so well. And I think they're going to go back to that. And if they were to set that up and let people go, ooh, the X-Men are coming. That's a great way to say that the X-Men are coming without going, here they are. You know, you're setting something up in an Avengers movie. That's pretty cool. I'm not saying they're doing that, but
Buy into
cool.
the heel.
I would love to see this.
Yeah.
I would love to see the Hot Toys figure of Dwayne Johnson as Apocalypse. I want it, John.
I'm not saying that would be.
You put this in my head today. Now, I didn't have to have this happen today. But
By
now
the way, I just got to throw this out there. For those of you who don't ever watch wrestling, The Rock has about 17 dozen catchphrases. But whenever he shows up in an arena, like let's say it's in Pittsburgh, the first thing he'll do is finally, The Rock has come back to Pittsburgh. Todd Kaepernick in the live chat just wrote, finally, The Rock has come back to work. That's the comment of the day in the live chat for me. That for me is the comment of the day.
But wouldn't you like to see it?
Again, not my first choice.
All right.
Not my first choice. But again, if tomorrow they announce Dwayne Johnson has officially signed up to play Apocalypse and Sabanur in the MCU, I'll be down. I'm like, because I'll know, hey, if Kevin Feige is okay with it, then he's got a vision and he knows that this will work. So I'll be okay with it. It's just, it wouldn't be my pick. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Because if it is, he's got to bring the snitch Dwayne Johnson and not Skyscraper. No, what was the one with the building on fire? Was it called Skyscraper?
Yeah,
Towering Inferno? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Skyscraper. Not The Rock from San Andreas. Not The Rock from Skyscraper. Not The Rock
from the game plan.
From Fast and Furious. Definitely not The Rock from Tooth Fairy the Game. He's got to bring Dwayne Johnson from Faster or Dwayne Johnson from Snitch or something like that. And then, we'll see. Well, we'll see. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, he could do it. And maybe he'd be perfect for it. It all depends on the direction they're going. I don't personally believe this. I don't think it's going to happen, but maybe you do. What are some pros and cons about it? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, it's time for us to get to the most important part of our show, hearing from you guys and taking your thoughts, theories, opinions, questions, and observations, as long as they're appropriate for us to address on the show. But before we do, we're going to take another quick second and thank another sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at BetterHelp. Guys, we want to thank a sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp. Listen, we all carry around different stressors, big and small. When we keep them bottled up, it can start to affect us negatively. Therapy is a safe space to get things off your chest and to figure out how to work through whatever is weighing on you. I've said for a long time, it's time for us to start prioritizing mental health as much as we prioritize physical health. You know, we encourage each other when we go to the gym to take care of ourselves physically. Well, it's time we start encouraging each other to take care of ourselves mentally as well. So if you're thinking about taking that step and prioritizing your mental health, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. So get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Campea today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at BetterHelp for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. Okay, guys, with that down, let's get on to the important stuff here, shall we? Jonathan, what do we got up first?
We got Jay Loco, who says, my son and I watched War of Apes, Caesar being haunted by Koba's spirit while punished on wood like Jesus, then later dying for his ape race. Amazing storytelling, teared up twice. Top 3 trilogy for me.
I still gotta say, I'm not a big fan of War. I loved the first two.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved the first two. It falls short of being a top tier trilogy for me overall, but overall, even with the third, I think it's incredibly solid. Dawn for me is the crowning jewel, like Empire is for a lot of people in the Star Wars trilogy. Dawn for me is the crowning jewel. But I'll tell you what, dude, I'm going to go see this thing tonight. I couldn't be more excited. They showed us like 10, 15 minutes of it at CinemaCon, and I loved what I saw. So here's hoping when we come out of the theater tonight, we'll have good things to say. Fingers crossed. All right, what's next?
Christopher Brickner says, X-Men 97, Episode 9 review. Oh, damn.
I won't say now. Maybe we'll talk more about it tomorrow because I know some people haven't seen X-Men 97. Although it's a TV show, it became available like 12 and a half hours ago. So, but this episode, I was saying to Rob before the show started that it completely epitomizes what is great about this show and what isn't great about this show. And for those of you who've seen the episode, you probably know what I'm talking about. I mean, but overall, the show has been wonderful and the episode was wonderful. The episode was great. It just has something happen in the episode that kind of is a good representation of the general criticism of the show, being that it's a very annotated, shorthand, Twitter 140 characters maximum, kind of trying to tell a story that way. But again, in the package that it's in, it's been incredibly good. And I'll tell you what, this isn't a spoiler or anything because it's just saying there's a conversation. There's a conversation that happens between Magneto and Charles Xavier in it that is just wonderful. Like, true, total Charles and Eric kind of conversation that I absolutely loved. That was fantastic. And yeah, I can't wait for the finale. Can't wait. All right, what's next?
We got James Wheeler with a $50 super chat.
Wow.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for that, James. Appreciate that, man.
He says, hello, everyone. I'm loving my Celtics and Bruins.
Celtics.
Yeah, that's right. Celtics. There are Celtics, but Celtics and Bruins as long as it lasts.
Yeah, listen, Bruins, good on you. I mean, again, they beat the Leafs, so good on you. I hope you do well. Celtics are going to do great and all the way through the Eastern Conference until they run into anybody. Whoever comes out of the West will beat the Celtics. But the Celtics, I think, are going to get to the NBA Finals. We'll see. Then again, I thought Denver was going to rout Minnesota like 4-2, and looks like Minnesota is going to sweep them. But I think I think whoever comes out of the West is going to beat Boston in the East. But Boston has had a great year. All right, what's next?
All right. The only thing I can say about the Celtics is to this day I still love their court.
Oh yeah, the parquet floor.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love them.
Chris Miner says, oh no, CM Waters says, Hulu should have been Disney Plus's Touchstone Pictures.
Well, Hulu's a broadcast network, really, in a way. They're not a movie studio. They will produce some originals, but I don't know. Like, I think Disney needs a Touchstone Pictures kind of thing, but I don't think Hulu's the thing to be it.
It's so weird. They have Touchstone Pictures and Hollywood Pictures, and it's such a strange thing to me.
And they have Fox.
And they have Fox, and those I read a comment from Bob Iger about Fox and how they didn't have much. I mean, here you have Disney releasing Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is a Fox property. Alien Romulus is a Fox property. For all intents and purposes, Deadpool and Wolverine are also Fox properties. And while they've brought them under the roof of Disney, they're saying, Bob Iger said that they really didn't have much plans to exploit the Fox library more. And I'm like, but you are. And if Kingdom does well, and if Romulus does well, why don't you lean into that more? It's such a weird thing. And they haven't done anything with their library. Where are all the great titles? They haven't released them on physical media. They haven't put them really on streaming. Like, where's Ruthless People or Down and Out in Beverly Hills? I love those movies. And you can't get them. It's weird. R-rated, put them on Hulu.
Eventually they'll show up. But let's be honest though. They're not going to be high on anybody's priority list, because even if you do put them out, it's not like it's going to bring in $40 million.
No,
for
it's
the company,
true.
right?
That's my fear about the entire cinematic legacy of Hollywood.
But it's coming. I believe that stuff is coming. All right, what's next?
And you might find yourself in a beautiful house.
That's on its way.
Chris Miner says, "Hey John, I really missed Ted Lasso."
Oh God, I missed that show. Don't get me wrong. I love great drama and all that kind of stuff, but there's something edifying to the soul about a show of just good people being good. I mean, that's what made me fall in love with that show. And I do believe they are going to return. I think we are going to get a Ted Lasso season 4. Because we only got 3 seasons, right? Or am I wrong? Or was there 4? Maybe I'm
No, there's 3.
There's 3. Okay. I believe we will get a season 4 at some point. But yeah, I'm with you. I missed that show. All right. What's next?
Oh, wrong one. Because Cinema says,
Oh, you right. Want to raise it up a bit.
yeah. Anyone remember when every new actress announced for Star Wars was assumed to be Rey's mother? People like that are the reason we got Rey Palpatine.
I mean,
I don't know if that's the reason.
I don't know if that's the reason. No, I mean, God, the Rey Palpatine thing. I'm not going to go into it, but I made it like a full 25-minute editorial video. Jonathan, I think you're the one who edited it.
Yep.
On why The Rise of Skywalker. Again, and taking nothing away from anybody who enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, that's great. My point of view is not to crap on your point of view. Not at all. I'm just stating my personal point of
Did you
view,
really
which was
enjoy it though? If you did,
why that movie failed, and how it's so utterly failed, and all the things it did wrong. And it all comes down, every single one of the multiple things I bring up of points of failure all get brought down to, when you really put it through the filters, it all comes down to one thing: no plan. It's just and the Rey Palpatine thing is just that crowning cherry on the failure sundae, about how them having no plan led to the absolute most ridiculous thing. I'm still not even sure if Attack of the Clones or The Rise of Skywalker is the worst Star Wars movie ever made.
oh, I'm an Attack of the Clones apologist. Rise of Skywalker absolutely is.
You're an Attack of the Clones.
I'll tell you
even
something.
people who like the prequels for whatever reason will crap on it.
That whole battle on Geonosis is great fun. You know, all the Jedi show up.
No, I like
that
scene.
sequence is.
I think it's a good scene.
You know, John, I think that The Rise of Skywalker, which is really a terrible adaptation of the Dark Empire comic series, is so not good. It did incredible damage, I think, to the Star Wars IP, because they could have made a really satisfying conclusion. But like you said, how do you have no plan? I'll never understand that as long as I live.
I mean, they literally just took a parallel of Luke. They're like, oh, he was hidden on a desert planet from Vader. We'll hide her on a desert planet from Palpatine. So
I didn't mind that. Like, Force Awakens to me, loved it. Like I said, Schnepp and I would run across the street every other day for weeks just so we could go watch The Force Awakens again. I really did like it. I liked it a lot. I mean, yeah, it had some of its shortcomings, but if you had just, okay, that's your starting point. Now, where are you going? I don't know. We'll figure it out when we get there. We'll figure it out. Oh my God. Anyway. All right. What's next?
They didn't.
They did not.
you're like the narrator. In fact, they did not. Oscar Herrera says with a $20 super chat,
Thank you, Oscar.
The Rock is Apocalypse. There goes his can't lose clause. X-Men 97 was amazing. I can't wait to see the season finale. Hope season 2 falls victim to the streaming problem, which is a significant time gap between releases. I think he means hope it doesn't fall victim.
But you know what? That's the thing. Dwayne Johnson does not have that can't lose clause. One of the things that I've appreciated about him as an action star, as opposed to another guy I love, Vin Diesel, but like Vin Diesel has to be absolutely undefeatable in everything he's in. Whether you're looking, if you're The Rock and you're looking at something like his first fight against Jason Statham, he loses. In Hobbs and Shaw, when they first encounter Idris Elba, gets his ass beat. Like, he will take licks and lumps and lose. And he's still the hero. The directors want the hero to prevail, so sure. But Dwayne Johnson doesn't have that can't lose clause in him. I think he knows he's a big enough star that it doesn't affect him. So, again, though, if you get signed on to an MCU, Dwayne, I don't want to hear anything. And I'm saying this as your fan. I don't want to hear none of this bullshit about you showing up 10 minutes late or an hour late or 5 hours late or whatever. Because Kevin Feige ain't going to put up with it. And I just don't want you impacting these movies. So just keep that in mind. All right. What's next?
Bright says, after seeing Creed, Michael B. Jordan was my pick for Doom. After Black Panther, it was Cillian Murphy. Now it's Affleck, would pair perfectly with Pascal.
What does Black Panther have to do with Cillian Murphy?
After Black Panther, it was Cillian. Yeah, I don't know.
How did Black Panther inspire you to say Cillian Murphy? That's who I can see. Ben Affleck as Doom. I am an unapologetic, huge Ben Affleck fan. I have been for many, many, many years. I don't see him as Dr. Doom. I'm not saying he couldn't do it. I'm just saying I just don't see, I can't see the vision.
I mean, I always saw Doom as European.
Yeah.
You know,
he could do a European accent, just like Europeans play American.
But I mean, it'd be great to get a great
as
European actor to play Doom.
Roxapian.
Rock should be Doom. He should be Doom and he should be Apocalypse. And then they say,
what a shocking reveal
twist,
that would be.
They're brothers. In a shocking twist, they're brothers. All right, what's next?
All right. Ethan Holgate says, let's be honest here. What's considered too far in comedy, in my opinion, if the joke is clever and told well, you either find it funny or you don't.
No, I don't agree. Like, I think even the great ones, or even the more edgy ones, like I said, when an Andrew Dice Clay says, yeah, there are lines you can't cross. Being funny is not a free pass. Like, here's like totally example of hyperbole, right? This is total hyperbole, but it makes the point. Guys, your friend's mom dies. And the next day you're with your friend and you're going over funeral arrangements to say, man, your mom took it up the ass so much, her face being down on the dirt is going to be nothing new for her, huh? Like, that would be wrong.
That was an interesting...
I'm just saying, it's hyperbole, but I'm giving an example. Like, no, that is over a line, right? That's, like, I think anybody would say that would be over the line.
Yeah, because it's sociopathic.
Yeah.
And any good comedy has a through line of empathy.
And a funeral's not a roast. So
yeah, but the point is, like, I had this discussion online with somebody today, made a comment about, like, someone made a comment that there is no line for comedy. That's why it's comedy. Comedy should have no line. And I'm like, no, that's not true. No, but I think the line should be a lot further down the road than some people think it should be and all that kind of, but there is a line. And it's always the job of the comedian to kind of push the envelope a bit and see how far that line is. And when you discover you've gone over it, pull back. But I mean, so it's comedy's a very weird thing, man. It's a very, very, very weird thing that way. All right, what's next?
Ethan Holgate says, nope, Mr. Godzilla says, The Rock is Apocalypse. People are going to be talking about that like there's no tomorrow. Badumtis. Okay, I think that was like a drum. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. People are going to be talking about that like there is no tomorrow.
I don't understand. What's there's a
is there
joke
no tomorrow with Apocalypse, I guess?
No, Apocalypse has tomorrows. Are we?
Is that something The Rock said? That
I've never heard him say that. Oh, all right. Sorry about it. That one went over heads. All right, what's next?
Jimmy Anderson says, I guess we have to want for at least a Survivor Series for the Rock Roman Reigns feud then.
I'm not following WWE right now,
Yeah.
so I just assumed The Rock did WrestleMania and then left, but he's still hanging around.
Supposed to come back in July or something like
All
that.
right, all right. What's next?
All right. Richard Lai says, with the likes of Dune Part 2, Godzilla and Kong, and Furiosa, it looks like WB has dominated the science fiction genre. Do you agree with this?
No.
At the theater, yeah.
I mean, no. Like you never take a very small, finite window of time and say, like, you have one good day, you're not dominating. Like you've had one good kind of little time window. I think they're having some absolute success, right? But let's see if they continue this on for another 3 or 4 years. Let's see how this goes, and then we'll see. Then we'll see. All right, what's next?
All right. CPU says, with a 20-pound super
Thank
chat,
you, CPU.
any movie you would watch while in the hospital. Not Madam Web. Yes, I'm back in hospital, but with good Wi-Fi.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear about that, man. I mean, for me, whenever I feel sick, like like for whatever time you like, whatever it is you have, whenever I'm laid up, for me, it's comedy. I like to laugh, especially when I feel crappy. Comedy is the thing for me to go to. So I would go back to, God, it sucks that we're old enough now that these are classics, but I would go back to some classics like Anchorman. Having just seen Ron Burgundy at the Tom Brady roast, definitely Anchorman, 40-Year-Old Virgin, and Wedding Crashers. Wedding Crashers is an underrated comedy. I mean, everybody knows it's good, but I don't think it gets the credit it deserves for just how good that movie
I recently rewatched it. It's pretty damn funny.
and
It's also heartfelt.
It is heartfelt. That's the best comedies will have the heartfelt stuff in there too. That's what 40-Year-Old Virgin has as well, right? And you forget that Bradley Cooper's in it.
Oh, and he's such a dick.
He's such a
He's such a great dick.
so good. All right, what's next?
I recommend Canine, the Turner and Hooch knockoff with starring John Belushi.
Jim Belushi.
Jim Belushi.
I forgot about that one. Oh. All right, what's next?
Dante Serecchia. I can hear Feige now. Oh, man. Apocalypse is late to set again. Shucks, darn it. How could we have not known?
Yeah, like if there is any truth to this, and I doubt there is, but if there is any truth to it, I guarantee you Kevin Feige would have had a very serious, no BS conversation about, listen, if you do decide to do this and we decide to use you in it, not 1 minute late. I don't want to hear one PA complain about you handing them a bottle of piss. None of it. You're part of a larger universe now. You come in, know your role, and shut your mouth. Or the other way around. You know Kevin Feige, because Kevin Feige's gonna be, look, I've got enough shit I got to deal with. If you're Kevin Feige, you got enough crap you got to deal with. I can't have one of my stars deciding they're going to show up 4 hours late. Couldn't fly.
Oh, and especially on these Marvel movies, the amount of money they're burning
Oh,
for
yeah.
on set.
Absolutely.
You know, we're only like 2.5 months away from Deadpool and Wolverine.
Oh, I know. Oh, don't think I'm not aware of that.
That's really weird. You know, it's weird to think that.
That
is weird to think
countdown
It felt
is
so
on. And you know
far.
what? I am still not convinced that they're not going to surprise drop it earlier. Again, I have no insider information. This is just me speculating as a fan. Could be right, could be wrong. I'm just saying, I am still not convinced that they don't plan, because they've already released 2 trailers. I won't be convinced if like 6 weeks early they decide, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, this week, Deadpool and Wolverine. It's like, it'll shock everybody. We'll find out. All right, what's next?
We got Daniel Meza, who says, watch the original Planet of the Apes movies for the first time. Love them. Where does the most recent trilogy fit into the timeline? Way before.
Well, first of all, it's important to understand, they've been clear about this. They aren't canon,
Right.
right? They are not directly connected. Now, of course, in that first James Franco Planet of the Apes, on the television, there's a reference to the Charlton Heston character being in a new space shuttle that's taking off, right? So there's connection. They try to connect, but it's not canon. But as far as timeline goes, it appears to me, as somebody who hasn't seen the movie yet, not for another 6 hours, that it takes place several centuries after the events of War for the Planet of the Apes and multiple centuries before the events of Charlton Heston's Planet of the Apes. Rob, how would you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's interesting to me because while it doesn't entirely fit, the new trilogy takes place sometime because they say all the pets die, and that's why the apes in the original Planet of the Apes movies, that's why humans went to apes to domesticate them and things like that. So it doesn't entirely work, but it also kind of does because they leave it nebulous where the Planet of the Apes come from. So I think that Rise, Dawn, and War sort of encapsulate everything that happened in the original Planet of the Apes movies. So I don't mind that because you're seeing what happened after and how we get to Planet of the Apes. So I think that, like you said, even though it's not quite canonical, I still think they all work together in a certain sort of a way because once you've traveled through time, what happens when Charlton Heston leaves Earth, it's not exact because then the apes from the future have to come back and all that. So the Planet of the Apes has to happen. So if you look at Planet of the Apes, the first movie, and then you see how the ape civilization arose, you could watch this new trilogy and the new fourth movie and watch it all and then go back to Beneath the Planet of the Apes because everything after that is not necessarily works. So if you watch the original Planet of the Apes, these new 4 movies, and then watch Beneath, I think that's canonical. I buy that.
Of course, but the producers have said in the past that they're not beholden to the original films.
No, they're not,
yeah.
but it still works because
Sure, you can look at it that way. Like to me, that's kind of like to me when I look at the Kiefer Sutherland, Chris Pratt, Three Musketeers movie.
right,
And then
Oliver
you
Platt.
look at the Oliver Platt, thank you. And then you look at the John Malkovich, Leonardo DiCaprio, Man in the Iron Mask.
Yeah.
To me, those movies fit together as a sequel.
Yeah,
even though it's not really-
yeah, totally.
But here, now I haven't seen the movie yet, so I can still ask this question. The girl in the trailers, everybody else is wearing primitive furs, whatever. The girl is in ripped jeans and a tank top and speaks. I don't think she's going to be an astronaut come back from space.
No.
The only other thought I have, and again, I have nobody's to ask me. I haven't asked anybody who's seen the movie yet. I'm going to see in a while, but is this an idiocracy situation where maybe she's like coming out of a
Hollister.
cryo chamber or
Like in
something
Fallout?
like that, and like comes out and like the world has changed? Where do you think her story's going to be?
I think there's probably some kind of a human colony of people that didn't devolve. And that they pose a threat to Proxima Caesar, the new Caesar character, and they need to, like, those people, he knows what's up. He's like, we got to get these humans because they have the potential to destroy our civilization. I would imagine
Have you seen that footage they put out though of where they hear her speak for the first time?
Oh no.
Okay, so not Caesar, Noah is standing there.
I don't want to see that. I'm gonna have to wait and see it in the movie. I want to see it in context.
Okay, then I won't tell you what.
Don't tell me.
But it's a publicly released piece of
okay.
promo for it. But anyway, all right. What's next?
Mr. I says never trust lemonade from The Rock while on set.
Yeah, true.
just,
Dad, turn down that bottle. Turn it down. All right.
It's a new energy drink.
It might be actually. Arun says, liked Kung Fu Panda 4. I noticed that not all characters from previous movies spoke in the movie. Would the voice actors get any royalty in this case? No. Because they don't own the character. It's not their...
No, they don't own the
not their
character. The
likeness.
character doesn't. They're hired hands to come in and do the voice. If they don't do a voice, then no.
Yeah.
And by the way, even if they came in and did 1 or 2 lines, they wouldn't get royalties for that either. Like not everybody in a movie gets royalties or anything like that, so it wouldn't be the case anyway. All right, what's next?
Dallas Designer says, tell you what, Feige's not going to be playing that late to set crap. He'll get recast in a heartbeat. This makes me wonder if this was the cause of the drama on Fast and Furious sets.
I don't think that it is. I mean, it might have been, but from our understanding and from the publicly made statements from Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel, it seemed like Dwayne was unhappy with Vin's work ethic.
Yeah.
Which makes it all the more concerning that, hey, pot, meet kettle. That makes that even more concerning. But yeah, apparently it was the complete opposite of the problem on the Fast and Furious set. All right, what's next?
He was showing up right behind him. He's like, "Why are you late?" Kyle McComb says, I'm in the middle of moving apartments.
Oh, I hate moving.
Yeah. Thanks for being moving studio sucks too, let me tell you. Thanks for being the highlight as I move furniture and freight upstairs. Ugh. Any thoughts on the first movie to watch when I'm all set? Any New Beginnings movies?
New Beginnings movies, that's good. But I think because of the week that we've had, this is always a good one anyway. Actually, when people ask me, John, I'm setting up a new TV, or I'm setting up a little theater room, or I've got a new display in my bedroom, whatever, I always go to the same movie, and I'll say it now again because of the events of this week. Lord of the Rings. With the passing of Bernard Hill, you're setting up your what a good way to christen your new entertainment area than with Lord of the Rings. So that would be my recommendation. But a New Beginnings kind of movie, that's a good question. I'd have to think about I can't even think off the top of my head what movies would kind of fall under that category of New Beginnings, other than Up. Up would be an interesting one. But all right, good question though. And I hope you like your new apartment. What's next?
Crazy Description says, hey, John, did you hear that Disney and Fox are making another Maze Runner movie? Westball is returning to produce, and Jack Paglin will be penning the script. It's not a reboot or direct sequel.
How is something not a reboot or a sequel?
Or a direct
It's a
sequel.
weird.
I'm not quite. What do they mean by it's not a reboot? Okay. But it's not a sequel. Oh, okay.
Oh, maybe direct sequel, so it's in that world, but it's not a sequel to
Kind of
those
like the new
characters.
Office show?
Yeah. It's probably in that world, but it's not a direct sequel to those characters.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a mistake. Listen, the first Maze Runner in particular wasn't half bad.
I liked it.
Yeah, I like the first Maze Runner.
I actually like the second one too.
Littlefinger was in that, wasn't he? The dude from Game of Thrones. Littlefinger was in like some of the follow-up movies. I think they lost steam. And I'll be honest with you, I think today nobody cares about the Maze Runner films today. Good for them. Maybe they'll find a new audience.
Yeah, it says Maze Runner series is getting a reboot with director Westball as producer.
As producer, yeah, because he's going to be busy directing the Legend of Zelda movie.
Yeah.
Which I'm very excited about. Okay, interesting. All right, what's next?
Okay, we got Kevin's with a $50 super chat.
Oh, thank you, Kevins.
Hey, John, I love the new suit. Why are a lot of people hating it?
I'm going to assume you're talking about the new
Superman,
Superman
yeah.
suit. Let's just be clear. The Superman suit is great. Not that it's important. I mean, if I looked at it and thought it was terrible, it wouldn't matter to me because it has no reflection on whether the movie's good or bad whatsoever. I think the Superman suit is great. There are three things at play, okay? 3 things at play. Number 1, a suit is an aesthetic thing, and it's going to hit everybody differently. Just like a dress. And one person might like a dress, one person might not like a dress, right? So there are going to be people out there who literally just legitimately look at the suit and say, you know what, that doesn't really work for me. Maybe they were wanting the Henry Cavill suit. Maybe they were wanting the Christopher Reeve suit. But for whatever reason, they looked at the suit and thought, you know what, that's not working for me. So that's the first and most primary group. There's another group that we all fall into this category now and again. People don't like anything new. I still remember, Dennis and I to this day will laugh about this. We were doing AMC and we literally changed the color of the curtain behind us.
Yeah.
Changed the color of the curtain that was behind us
How dare you?
from black to red. The amount of whining and complaining I heard from people, why would you make that decision? That's not what I don't like the look of it, blah, blah, blah. And then this is where it gets funny. A few months later, when we changed it again, those same people were complaining that we changed from the thing they had complained about that we changed it to just 6 months earlier. I mean, that's it. People don't like change. They don't like it at all. So when something doesn't look the way they're used to it looking, and we've all been there and we've all done this, it's like, I don't like that because it's new. It's different, right? And sometimes it takes a little while to warm up to it. And then listen, same thing happened with Henry Cavill's suit. When Henry Cavill's Superman suit got first revealed, you know how much whining and complaining there was about it all. It was insufferable. But now people love it. Okay, and that's good. So there's people who just, from an aesthetics point of view, doesn't work for them. Great. For another group of people, it's like, it's just different, it's new, so we're not going to like it no matter what. And then there's a third group that are just like, are in the camp already that they're just going to hate on anything that comes out of this new DC thing, no matter what. And they're a small group, but they are there. There's a group out there that is like, still believes that the failed DCU should still be going, and no matter what comes out of this new James Gunn, Peter Safran DCU, they are they're already hating their hate button. Hate it, hate it, hate it. But you didn't see it yet. It doesn't come online for another 10 seconds. Doesn't matter. Hate it. So you got all three represented there.
You know, I also think people have missed out, or they didn't pay attention to what James Gunn said in his original tweet. That was a candid picture that was taken on the set by the set photographer.
Yes.
It was not a picture that was supposed to necessarily showcase the suit in its glory.
And it wasn't a frame for the
movie.
movie.
It wasn't part of a photo shoot. I think that James Gunn saw a moment where he saw that Superman has to put on his boots like everybody else. And there was this moment that the still photographer happened to capture that was a behind the scenes moment, probably between takes or something. And James Gunn's like, you know what? I love what this says about the character of Superman. And he wasn't thinking like, well, it's our first glimpse. He was showing us that, you know, Clark Kent is one of us. Superman he's not a god. He is grounded. And I really like that moment because we've seen Alex Ross paintings that are similar. And it was a candid moment that had a lot to say about the movie that they were making. But it wasn't like a photo shoot showcasing.
No, it's not the official poster. And this is the part that I still don't understand why people don't get this. That is not a picture taken in a vacuum. That's a picture where clearly when you look at the suit, he's been through a battle, he's been through a fight.
Sure.
He's weary, and he's putting the boots back on to get back out there. And I want to ask these people, like, so are you one of these people that, if you go back to Superman 2 with Christopher Reeve, after Clark doesn't have his powers anymore and he gets the crap beat out of him by that trucker, you think Superman should be going, oh, well, God bless you, sir, for beating the shit out of me? Do you think that's what Christopher Reeve? No, he's like, even the Superman, because James Gunn's made it very clear. He wants a brighter Superman in this one. And this was not an official poster. This was a candid photo, social media post. And you got to take context. Like, look at the suit. This is a guy who's been through a fight and he's getting ready to get back into the fight. And I don't know what you want. Honestly, I think some people, not most of them, not all of them, I think some people are just looking for reasons to complain.
Yeah, I mean, look, having been through this and actually documented the first photographic shoot of a Superman suit on Superman Returns, you know, David James, the still photographer, there was a big setup deal. They had a place and they took the picture of Brandon Routh. He's pointing in front of the Daily Planet. This was a setup shot. This was something that was done. It was a special shoot that they went and they wanted to get one picture to reveal the suit. I mean, people bitched and moaned and complained about that, but that was an actual shoot to show what Superman looked like. This wasn't that. And I think that it was James Gunn giving us a candid glimpse in a cool way of the making of the movie. And I liked it.
Yeah, I think, look, there's nothing to complain about. It looks solid, looks great. Now, we got to see it in motion. We got to see how is it going to look in video. And I may change my mind about it once we do.
Sure.
And again, whether the suit is great or horrible has no impact at all on how good or bad the movie's going to be. None. Zero. That's why I didn't care if I liked the suit or not. I happen to like the suit. It looks good. You got elements of Henry Cavill's Superman. You got some elements of All-Star Superman. Ray was pointing out you got some elements of Injustice Superman. You got a few callbacks to the Christopher Reeve Superman
New 52,
suit.
the high
The
collar.
New 52 is definitely in there. Like, you see an amalgamation of all these classics in there. And look, here's a truth. No matter what the Superman costume looked like, there were going to be a lot of people that would complain about it. And maybe I would have been one of them. They could have come out with the blue electricity Superman suit. Ton of people would have complained. They could have come out with the black Superman suit. Ton of people would have complained. They could have come out with Henry Cavill's exact Superman suit. Ton of people would have complained. No matter what this suit looked like, a lot of people were going to complain, right? Because it's just the way we are. And it's fine, but I want to see it in the movie. I want to see a trailer. We're a long ways off from it,
100%.
but I want to see it in motion. I want to see how it works. Does it fit with the vibe of the character? We'll see. We'll see how it goes. All right, what's next?
On to members. Mighty Tank 1 says, you guys reminded me of the episode where Michael Scott sets up a roast on himself.
Oh my
Hilarious.
God.
I need to watch that episode
Supposed
later.
to say nice things about me. Didn't you bring that up the other day,
I
Ray?
brought it up.
Ray, remember? Ray, actually, we were talking about it. And Ray brought it up, the fact that the Michael Scott, the episode where he wants to roast of himself, and he gets all bothered.
He couldn't even speak afterwards. Like, you know how when he's supposed to go up and start saying stuff about the other people, he was just like, and then he just ran off. Didn't he just run off? And then he
I
came
can't
back
remember.
later into the office and then actually roasted everybody. It was pretty funny.
All right, what's next?
King Daddy Goat says, happy hump day, guys. How to drain your dragon bit yesterday killed me. Friends are overrated. I'm glad I can always count on you guys to put a smile on my face. Thanks. Bring on the filthy.
Oh, that was just a spontaneous thing. And, Rob said yesterday, man, it's been a long time since I lived this down. I don't know how long, what was it? 4 years ago that I did the accidental kiss gangbang. I still haven't lived that one down. I don't think the Drain Your Dragon will last quite as long, but
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not. All right, what's next?
Red One Real Talk says, I chuckle at the thought of The Rock playing 2 comic characters with Egyptian origins, including Black Adam. Totally not opposed to him as Apocalypse, so long as they do justice to that storyline.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter to me that both characters, they're very different characters. It's just because they both come from a certain I don't think there's any problem with that. And they're going to make Apocalypse very different. Again, let's be clear. I don't think this is true. I don't think we're going to see Dwayne Johnson as Apocalypse. But if they do, I don't think it's a problem. All right, what's next?
Amin says Pirates of the Caribbean 2 came out almost 20 years ago, and
Wow.
Davy Jones is still one of the best CG characters ever.
Ever.
Better than most stuff we see nowadays. So good. He's up there with Caesar and Thanos as the top 3 best looking CGI characters, in my opinion.
I do not agree. But I will say this. When you talk about in comparison to its time, the wow factor that I had, like, say, with Caesar, remember, it's a changing scale. As the years go on, as the technology gets better, hitting that wow factor becomes harder and harder and harder. The bar is raised more and more and more. So when Davy Jones, that was Bill Nye, right?
Yeah, and he's not a fully CG generated character the way Caesar or Gollum or Thanos was. They were doing what they were calling CG makeup at
Yeah.
the time. So you have these CG appliances applied to the actors in post. It was very interesting the way they did it. So it doesn't really count necessarily the same way a Thanos or a Caesar counted.
Yeah,
Different process.
The bar, because if you just, like, in a vacuum, put up the Davy Jones, Caesar, and Thanos, Davy Jones is the one that clearly comes in a distant third. But
It's still amazing,
in
though.
comparison to its era, though, like, it was one of the most remarkable things we had seen, much like when we saw Thanos and when we see stuff like that today. So, but overall, it gets dated because that's what the visual effects do. Visual effects get dated. And so, but for its time, it blew our minds just like the way Thanos blew our minds. All right.
And the way things are rendered, too. There's just more computer power.
Yeah.
There's more firepower that allows them to create realism.
Yeah. All right. What's next?
Espinoza says, I would love to see Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, Eddie Murphy get roasted. I'm not sure they haven't, but I don't know.
I don't see them doing roasts of comedians. I just don't know that that's.
I'd like to see all three of those guys in a movie.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know what that movie would be, but I would
I'll
go
tell you
see
what,
it.
one of the best comedy nights I went to was about a year or two ago. Ann and I went to go see Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock together. It was in Anaheim at the Honda Center, and that was a night of a lot of laughter, man. That was a funny night. All right, what's next?
All right, we got Roebuck who says, you know who would make a great apocalypse? Paul Walter Hauser. After last week, I wouldn't be surprised if he was the MCU's Jubilee.
Listen, right now, it's just Paul Walter Hauser's world, and we're all just living in it. It really is like, what a week that dude had. I love the Jubilee one. Yep, Paul Walter Hauser as Jubilee. I love it.
Nice.
All right, what's next?
Foggy Knight says, well, John, your boy Magneto stole the show at the end again in X-Men 97. I know you've mentioned before that he's your favorite comic book character, and was curious what drew you to the character to becoming your favorite. Great choice, by the way.
I think I've always been attracted. You know, it's kind of the same reason why, like, my favorite character in fiction, let alone in World of the Rings, is Boromir. There's something about characters who have a nobility to them, but through whatever circumstances lead them to make wrong decisions or wrong actions or things like that. Magneto to me has always been a fascinating character because at his core, Magneto and Charles ultimately want the same thing. They want a world that mutants can live free, have happiness, be safe, all that kind of stuff. As Stan Lee said, I mean, they were two representations of the philosophy differences between, say, Martin Luther King and
Malcolm X.
Malcolm X, or to some degree, Louis Farrakhan, or something like that, right? And there's something to that I find so wildly compelling that just makes me appreciate, and then the way they execute the character, both in the comics and whatever. And I think then when it came, he was always one of my favorites. And then when X-Men Age of Apocalypse came out, that kind of cemented Magneto as my favorite comic book character of all time for that reason. So yeah, that's why. All right, what's next?
We got Fet's Hand who says, my family and I were looking forward to watching Godzilla Minus One on May 3rd, but that was the Japan date for streaming. Do you think it will come to US streaming soon?
You know, it's funny. Because Anne still hasn't seen Godzilla Minus One. She's constantly asking me, when's it coming to stream? I'm not sure. Just when I was doing research on stories last night, I came across a headline in one of the stories that says they've maybe said, I don't know, I haven't heard, but I hope it comes soon. Because I want to watch it again, but Anne's been wanting to watch it badly.
I had read, and I don't know if this is true, that they had to make a deal with Legendary and allow Godzilla X Kong its run first before they could release it, like on physical media here and on streaming. But I don't know if that's true.
It
With
says it's
Toho.
releasing on Prime Video, but in Japan only. So you need like a
So hopefully it'll be soon after that.
VPN, I guess.
VPN.
All right, what's next?
All right. Laker Low says, as someone who hated Tom Brady mainly because he wasn't the quarterback on my team, I gained massive respect for him. He is the undeniable GOAT to me now. I always found reasons to not accept that before. Making fun of yourself is a trait we don't see enough of anymore.
I mean, again, I pointed out the headline that said, you know, they absolutely eviscerated Tom Brady and it's the best thing that ever happened to him. You're right. Like, you know what it reminds me of a little bit? Tropic Thunder. Everybody forgets that Tom Cruise's career trajectory was this. Like, massively this. There was a lot of things that had been going on. We don't need to go over them now, but there was a lot of things going on and people were looking at Tom Cruise differently and blah, blah. And then Tropic Thunder came out where he played this utterly ridiculous, over the top character that literally saved his career. That movie saved his career. And I think something like that, there are a lot of people, look, when you're the greatest of all time, you're going to have your detractors. And Tom Brady has absolutely had his detractors over the year. But I've seen story after story of even Tom Brady's detractors going, you know what? That Tom Brady's all right. And I think that did amazing things for him.
You know, it's wild. I love that movie because not
Tropic
only is it
Thunder?
about making movies, but it's
Yeah.
just one of the most hilarious movies ever made. It's really interesting to see people talk about how, oh, you could never make that movie today. It would get canceled. And it's like
People still
that
watch
whole
it.
movie, that whole movie is about the absurdity of all of that kind of thing. If you don't watch Tropic Thunder and look at it and understand the commentary, it's so bizarre that I hear people, because that film it's a brilliant satire. It's a brilliant satire of the film business. It's a brilliant satire of actors, and the fact that an actor goes that far, he's
And
not.
and you're not supposed to like those characters.
No, and it's just, I mean, and Robert Downey Jr., he was in a bad place in his own career, you know, when that movie was made. And he says now that he doesn't know if he would take that role. But I'm like, he was genius in that role.
Well, Iron Man had come out before Tropic Thunder.
It did, but that was like, we just had our minds blown that he was back as that.
Yeah.
And then we were accepting him, and they're like, oh, Downey Jr.'s in this? That's him? How crazy.
Because, you know, you people. What do you mean, you people?
Yeah.
It's
What
right
do
there.
you mean, you people?
It's so good. It's so
but
good.
See, Rob and I were having this discussion before we started. Like, one of the things that the roast highlights for me, because forever people always say that you couldn't make The Office today. And I've always argued 100% you can. Because context, people understand context. Like, Michael Scott can say an absolutely outrageous thing because it's coming from Michael Scott. And as long as we know it's coming from Michael Scott, who's supposed to be this, at times, ignorant and clueless and whatever, like jokes that Michael Scott says couldn't have been said by the Jim character, because maybe then it would have been taken very differently. But if it's coming from Michael Scott, context means everything. So like these jokes that they're telling at the Tom Brady roast, they're coming because we know all these people on stage love each other, and we know all these people are on stage. Like, you got this one comedian making fun of the black lesbian comedian because we know that comedian loves her, is a big fan of hers, and is totally for equality. So him telling that joke,
yes,
it totally works.
That's why I was saying it has to have a through line of empathy.
Yes. And that's why whenever somebody says you couldn't make Tropic Thunder today, yes, you could. You couldn't make The Office today. Yes, you could. As long as, like Tropic Thunder and like The Office, context is cultivated very carefully.
Yeah, I agree,
Then it
John.
works.
And I think a lot of people don't. I think, if anything, we're even losing the ability to recognize that context.
Yeah, it's more of a reflection on those people. then.
Yes, and it's unfortunate, because the one thing about comedy is comedy's funny because it's true. There's truth in comedy that we all recognize, and that's what a roast is. It's based in truth, and truth is hard. And as long as you submit to it and you're like, okay, I know what you're going to do, it works.
And if you can laugh at it.
Yeah.
All right, let's take time for two more. What's next?
Okay, well, I guess this is sort of along the same lines. Galavantra says, do you think a remake of Steve Martin's The Jerk could work in 24? Thanks, Bring on the Filthy.
Okay, I questioned that one a little bit, not because of appropriateness, but rather because of datedness.
Yeah, does that style of comedy hold up?
Yeah, that's the thing, right? I see Steve Martin is a comedic genius. He, especially when I see him and Martin Short just being interviewed together, hilarious. But when I go back and watch some of his stuff like from the 70s,
Yeah.
it's dated. I don't think it works. So I don't think there's an appropriateness problem for The Jerk, and they would be pushing the envelope a little
I
bit
was
with
born a poor black child.
It's so funny. I just think a lot of the humor stylings of it wouldn't work just because it's a little bit dated. I'm not sure about The Jerk.
You'd have to play it like he played it, and then it's just, you're just mimicking. It's not.
Yeah, it's hard.
Crowded house. Mom, when am I going to be black? It's so, but you see, because context, right? It works.
And he
that
loved.
way.
It's from a place of love.
Yeah,
it is from a place of love. When it's from a place of love, and it's obvious to everybody that's from a place. You know what's really obvious with that? One of the guys who would tell like the most chauvinistic jokes ever was, you remember Tosh.0,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
right? Because everybody knows what he actually thinks and what he actually believes. So when he makes those jokes, it completely works. So anyway, yeah, this is a God. I miss Tosh.0. He used to be really funny.
was
He has
really
a
funny.
podcast. I know that.
Yeah.
Does he?
Yeah, he has a
Oh,
podcast.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Soul actually introduced me to it. It was really good. All right, last question of the day. What's
All right,
next?
Alan says, happy Wednesday, Campea crew. I watched the after party both seasons over the weekend. I love the first season, but not a huge fan of the second. Have you guys watched the show, and what are your thoughts?
After Party was very clever.
Yeah, it was. I only watched the first season.
With Jason Schwartz?
Schwartzman.
Schwartzman. Yeah, who does the voice of Sonic. And of course, it's John Ralphio in Parks and Rec. I thought the first one was very, very, very clever. Here's
It
how
was.
unimpactful season 2 is. I forgot it even existed.
I didn't know it did until just
like
now.
literally nobody talked about it. The first season, everybody was talking about it. So I never got around to watching the second season, but I heard such very, very mundane things about it. Like not bad enough for people to talk about, not good enough for people to talk about. But season 1 was very good. Dave Franco was really funny in season 1 too. I thought that was really good. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here, making this show part of your day. Listen, big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those questions. Number one, because it gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the show, thank you guys so very much for your support. Don't forget, guys, I got 2 videos coming today.
2 videos.
Two. A little bit later this afternoon at 3:30 p.m. Los Angeles time, we're going to be doing an open mic. So if you guys want to come back and just hang out to casually carry on the conversation, come on back and join me at 3:30 Los Angeles time. And then later this evening, keep your eyes open on the channel for when Ray and I put out our Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes right out of the theater review. Looking forward to that. So for Ray Ora,
See you later.
Jonathan Voico,
Later.
writer, director, producer Robert Meyer Burnett.
I'll say it again. Ape shall not kill ape.
My name is John Campea. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.
Is anyone going to look up?
Oh my God.
Oh.
How to drain your dragon.
Oh no.
I didn't even see that.